I get asked all the time, what are the 12 steps of recovery, and what do they do, and how can they help me? And the good news is that's my path of recovery. The 12 steps is designed for living that really works. Each step gives you a tool to handle life when life happens so you don't turn back to drugs and alcohol for your solution or suffer from mental health, because ultimately these steps are all centered around mental health. I believe everyone should work the 12 steps. Step 1 is where you fully concede to your innermost self that you're an alcoholic, the powerlessness and the unmanageability. Once I start, I cannot stop, and everything externally is unmanageable. And that leads me into step 2. Step 2 is where I find my conception of a higher power. And it doesn't matter what your conception is. You don't have to believe what anyone else believes. You don't have to fully define it. You don't have to understand it. Your inadequate belief is sufficient enough. It's roomy, all exclusive. It's open to everybody. You just got to try. And then step 2 is where we develop our relationship with our higher power, where we get the 50%, and the 50% that's our higher powers. Our 50% is the action steps each day. Our higher powers 50% is the outcomes in our lives. So when we get to step 3, we make this decision. Now we know what we're deciding to do, to turn my will in my life. Step 3 is where we decide to do our part of the relationship that we just established with our higher power. And that relationship and that 50% is to do the next right thing, is to live with love and honesty and hope and integrity and humility, and to be selfless and to be a good father, brother, husband, and son. That's my part of the relationship. And step 3, I make the commitment to do it. And the way I do it is by responding to life, not reacting. That leads me to step 4. When I get to step 4, that's the meat and potatoes of the why. If I asked you right now, why do you continue to relapse? Why do you continue to use drugs and alcohol? If I asked every person who came into Desert Recovery Centers in their initial intake, why are we here again? What would you say? Most wouldn't have the answer. Maybe it's I like it. Step 4 is where we find the answer. It's the why to the causes of our condition. It's where we get to go over it in 3 parts. The first part's going to be resentments, where we're going to look over all the reasons why we're angry, right? And we're going to analyze that. Then we're going to take a look at all of our fears, and we're going to take a look at the insanity. Fear touches every aspect of our life, because when I do what I want to do, my actions feed into every single fear that I have. That's why I'm consumed with fear. So we develop God's sufficiency for our fears. And then the third part, the final part, is the sex inventory. And I'll spoiler alert, it's not about sex. It's about how to have a meaningful relationship again. That leads us to step 5. Step 5 is where we bring all those secrets, all those things that create so much negative emotions, guilt, shame, embarrassment, remorse, regret. Step 5 is where we bring them from the dark to the light, and we take the power out of them. We admit the exact nature of our wrongs. That leads us to step 6. Very overlooked, it's a paragraph. Step 6 is where you build your identity. Because I'm here to remind you the sum of your actions today is a representation of who you are. So when you're on step 6, we want to know who you are and how to make you better, because constant never-ending growth is what the steps are all about. So in step 6, we're going to create your identity, the character assets you possess, the character defects you need to work on. That character defects list we're going to focus on. We're going to appreciate you got assets again. That's God working in your life. That's the program working. That's your part of the relationship working. That's God's part of the relationship working, because you have those again. We don't come to treatment on a winning streak when we're full of positive character traits. So we're going to focus on that defects list. Each week we're going to take 3. We're going to write the opposite, which is the positive character trait, and we're going to focus on turning that into an asset and strengthening our identity. The 7th step is a prayer. So now when I say to my Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad, now I know what I'm saying. Now I know what I'm doing. I've just developed my identity in 6, and I'm asking for the strength and humility to continue to put the work in. Step 8 is where I get to make some amends. Step 8 is where I organize the amends, the ones I can make now, the ones I'm going to make later, how I'm going to make them, which ones are going to be living, and the way I'm going to do it without creating harm. And step 9 is where I make them. And I go out and I make them, and I use a 5-step amends process to do it in an effective way that's been different than the million sorries. And then 10, 11, and 12 are the maintenance steps. 10 is how I maintain this new me when these character defects crop up. For me acting in them at once, I'm able to watch out for resentment, fear, dishonesty, and selfishness. Step 11 is how I maintain my relationship with this power. How I win the morning every single morning, right? How I get up and experience God. How I design design my day around experiencing God because the program is an experience. How do we experience our higher power working in our life? How does that happen? Through prayer, through meditation, through sports, through physical fitness, through being a present father, picking my kids up from school, coaching soccer, playing soccer, reading the big books, service work, service commitments. When I do those things, I feel God. So I organize my day around winning and feeling God. And then step 12 is service. It's where I take my past that caused me all that guilt, that shame, that embarrassment, that was the catalyst for the constant mental health and relapse. I start to use that as my greatest asset, and I go out to help people. I'm just one of the fortunate ones with Desert Recovery Centers that I've built something so special that has a sanctuary, a safe environment for you and your loved one to recover. So if you need help, please reach out. The 12 steps are a path that works, and they're designed for living, and a tool that gives you the ability to handle all those things every day. What used to baffle you will no longer will.